I'm Matthew Malcolm with California Ag Network, reporting to you here today from the annual meeting of the California Tomato Growers Association. One of the featured speakers here was Duncan MacEwan from ERA Economics. Obviously, SGMA has been a topic of interest for quite some time, maybe a topic of grief, or like it for a lot of farmers out there, and a lot of new things that we have to learn. Wanted to see kind of where we're at currently. You know, we've had the local GSPs just kind of putting together their plans of how we're going to be able to have sustainable groundwater for the future. But really wanting to know, too, from your perspective, the economics of that, of what's that going to mean to California farmers, you know, to their bottom line.
So I think it's important to, think about where we are currently. Implementation starts now for critically overdrafted subbasins in the San Joaquin Valley. Sustainability needs to be obtained by 2040 for those different areas. And there's really kind of three key costs that a grower would be thinking about for implementation of SGMA. And the first is administrative costs. The law requires annual and 5-year updates that are, and the cost of developing those updates is going to be recovered, in the form of higher water rates for users. And then managing for sustainability really requires either developing new sources of supplies or reducing the use of existing supplies, which would be through fallowing land. The cost of new supplies depends on the availability of that water. There's kind of limited options in the state for developing new surface storage, maybe some local options that we've looked at in some of the GSPs. A real hot topic right now is implementation with flood-managed aquifer recharge, so diverting floodwater that's available in some years onto fields or dedicated recharge basins for the groundwater recharge benefit in subbasins. And then land idling is kind of the last option that people are looking at, but it means removing crops from production. The cost of that is the value of the crops that were grown on that land. It has significant economic implications for valley communities. Jobs depend on that land, processing jobs and farm jobs and all of the economic activity that goes with farming, and particularly in the San Joaquin Valley, where most of those local communities are really dependent on that type of income, where agriculture is upwards of half of the economy in most of those smaller areas.
Right. Yeah. It's inevitable that some of this land is going to be fallowed. Mm-hmm. And in that case, agriculture really brings a lot of, makes the economy here in the Central Valley. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily going to be that fallowed land is going to turn into retail or homes and things like that, because where's the economy going to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what options are there for that land? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the big question, and that's where the real economic impacts to local economies come from implementation of SGMA. What are the alternative uses? And it depends on where parcels are located. Urban development has been a big one in a lot of areas, right? So conversion to houses, which typically have a slightly lower water demand than agriculture, although it's comparable depending on how they're developed. People throw out ideas like solar and other crazy things but it wouldn't really replace, the activity that's generated with agriculture. So, looking into the future, it's, we're talking about 20 years for implementation of SGMA and a lot of things that need to adjust. It's really hard to envision what that land looks like outside of its agricultural uses. There's a big adjustment. And we've seen estimates of land idling under SGMA, ranging from 500,000 acres to 1 million acres in the San Joaquin Valley alone, and that's a significant amount of land.
Yeah. So with land values just being at a high, with all the opportunities they have, planting almonds or other alternative crops and things like that, and things outside of agriculture. Mm-hmm. Once this land starts being fallowed, we could lose the price of land. Is that, do you think, going to be impacted?
Yeah. So we've already seen some adjustments in the value of land. So the value of land is based on the value of the crops that you can grow on that land. So land values across the state were generally increasing through 2014, 2015. And that was really driven by some of the strong nut market conditions. Since then, prices have come down in most areas. What's important is that since SGMA, we've seen a gap in the value of land in areas that have access to surface water
Right.
and areas that don't, that are groundwater only. And that's really driven by SGMA. When you're looking at sustainable yield of half a foot per acre in an area that doesn't have any alternative sources of water, you need to come up with another 2.5 or more 3 feet of water to be able to actually grow a crop. And that has a very big effect on land values. And we've started to see that gap between surface water areas and groundwater dependent areas grow, and it's probably likely to grow over the next few years as we learn a little bit more about how SGMA will be implemented through the various GSPs.
Great. Well, thank you, Duncan. I know it may sound like doom and gloom for farming, but I do believe that California farmers are resilient, and in spite of the things that we have struggles with from day to day because of California legislation, we'll find a way. Always do. Read more about these things in our publications. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.